And how does that make you feel, Charles? I am asked by my therapist, Dr. Finkelstein, for what seems the millionth time in my life. Honestly, I hate that question. I hate therapy, I hate Dr. Finkelstein, and I hate that the court keeps on mandating these useless sessions. But hey, that's the story of my life. Hated and useless through and through. This latest session is yet another state-mandated trauma therapy session for the latest accident to occur in my farce of a life here on this oh-so-wonderful planet Treith. And it is wonderful, just not for everyone. Not for me. But my thoughts digress. They often do that. Good thing Dr. Finkelstein is used to my long pauses. What did he ask again? How do I feel? Here I am, contemplating the latest in a string of rejections. I mean, I know I am no dazzler, but does it really require a dazzler to run a teleprompter? It certainly doesn't take a brainiac like Logic, but the Treithian World Network are a group of raging attributists and think only dazzlers belong in their oh-so-important entertainment company. It came out in the insurance investigation that the only reason they allowed me into the interview is because they had never seen a person with a U-class license and wanted to take a few shots at me. U is technically short for unattributed, but most just say the U stands for useless. But hey, at least I got the last laugh, as they had to pay not only my medical bills, but also hefty punitive damages. I mean, what kind of company lets in a rando through security without verifying his attribute license? The rando came in pretending to be an elevator technician, but per the evidence brought forth in the trial, is actually a pretty famous criminal. His nickname is The Charlatan, and apparently he talks his ways into random places and sows chaos as he sees fit for laughs and giggles. His own, obviously, because I certainly wasn't laughing until I got yet another set of punitive damages awarded. Seeing his profile on the security camera footage, he reminded me of effigies of those trickster gods, the ones with the constant smile, like they're up to something. It still amazes me that, with how famous he is, the state still doesn't have a complete picture of what he looks like as an adult. He managed to talk his way out of the company building during the confusion after destroying the safety mechanisms on the elevator. And then what proceeded was the quickest elevator ride to the lobby that I have ever experienced. So quick that I missed my stop and went straight to the basement. It took 12 hours and 6 smities to get me out of that elevator shaft. Of course, the dazzlers at TWN tried to argue that they cannot be held liable for what, to them, was clearly an act of terrorism. However, our judge, a Logic, was unmoved by their good looks and eloquence and judged that this could have all been avoided had they used what tiny brains they had and checked a state-issued license as per their own security procedures and the law. I have never heard of anybody successfully faking an attribute card, but I guess a criminal of his caliber could have had one. But still, they didn't even check. If they had, it would have shown that the charlatan is not only a dazzler, but a Class D. D for dangerous. There are only 3 classes. 1. U for useless. 2. D for dangerous. And 3. N for normal. The state's dazzlers revealed that upon the charlatan's 10th birthday, he was evaluated at the Attribute Center to obtain his first state-issued attribute license. His parents and colleagues all assumed that his awakened attribute was most likely wisdom, making him an empath, as he always had an innate understanding of people, which he used to get what he wanted as a child. However, after the tests, he was found to be far from an empath. Once, every so often, or so I learned during the trial, a person's awakened attribute is measured as far above the normal range of an awakened. In these cases, it is always found that another of their attributes is atrophied, as if the universe is seeking a balance. In this case, his awakened attribute being charisma, which made his wisdom assessed as being non-existent. This was, of course, deemed a dangerous combination. The ability to dazzle and manipulate people without the empathy to care about how his actions affect others and society in general makes the charlatan a menace. I am living in the aftermath of such actions. He was watched for any dangerous behavior, but it wasn't until he disappeared upon graduation from high school and the charlatan began making a name for himself that many incidents that occurred near and around his hometown were linked to him. Anyway, my thoughts have gone on too long, and Dr. Finkelstein is still staring at me, waiting for a response to his inane question. I don't really know how to feel anymore, so I decide to be petty as I answer. Seriously, always with the same question. Really, I scoff. Why do you always ask such a stupid question? Can't you just tell me how I'm supposed to feel with your all-so-powerful awakened attribute? And we could get this over with. The last sentence is muttered angrily. We have had this discussion before. Ah, there it is, his knowing and condescending smile. I can't help but roll my eyes as he responds as usual. You know why I keep asking, he responds with annoying warmth in his tone. Because talking through how you feel will help you process your own emotions and will help speed up the healing process of your trauma. You do want these sessions to end, don't you? He ends with a knowing, provoking grin. I fall for the bait. You can make these sessions end anytime you want. All you need to do is sign this stupid form and we can be done. You know how I feel, and both of us know it is never going to change. My life is useless. I am useless. I will never find a job. Nothing I do matters to anybody. Nothing I feel matters. Nothing any useless feels matters, as we are considered to be burdens to society. We cannot meaningfully contribute, nor live meaningful lives. All we can do is be excluded from and ridiculed by anyone and everyone we meet. On top of that, I seem to be the unluckiest of the bunch, as I can never seem to get away from you. I am holding back the endless tears of frustration at my unlucky life. How is it that I have never awakened a single attribute, not a measly amount of empathy or a shred of creativity? Why are there people like me born, and there are others like the charlatan who are born with attributes beyond even a normal awakened? Even constantly on the run, he at least seems to be living the life he wants to based on his smile. Why can't I? My therapist, empath that he is, reads my body language and seemingly considers how to respond to my latest tirade. Unlucky? He finally asks. Yes, I suppose from one point of view, your life certainly is unfavorable. I empathize with what you must have to go through as an unattributed. No one really knows why there are those that are born that never awaken an attribute. Some think it a punishment for a past life, though I personally think that's a cruel take, and others think that it must be a genetic defect caused by the environment, but nobody has found a definite link. No matter what the reason, it is completely unfair. However, to say you are unlucky? He asks, almost to himself, and after a slight pause, answers his own question. No, I would not call you unlucky. I have met all kinds of people in my line of work, heard all kinds of stories. I definitely do not want to downplay what you have been through, the pain from your many injuries. But how many times has the court mandated that you come and see me now? He asks, with what I assume is a rhetorical question. But I answer anyway, as I am still annoyed at having to be here. Well, let's think. There was the first time when my mother died when our house burned down around us, as there was faulty wiring installed by some stupid corrupt nimbles. The second time was because of that Hardy that had fallen asleep at the wheel after being forced to drive for 48 hours straight by that ginormous shipping company that ran our school field trip off the road. Oh, let's not forget that time I was walking to school, and a mighty ended up dropping a pile of rebar that he was bringing up to the roof of that office building next to my elementary school, and I ended up with my leg and nearly my head impaled. That only gets us through my last year of elementary school. I believe after I graduated, I had to move across town as our orphanage collapsed in an earthquake, the only building to do so, as the foundation was not set properly and the construction was not properly reviewed by a logic of the city. Not actually sure how I survived that one. I just remember waking up months later in the hospital. Then there was our junior high school trip to visit that soda factory, and the safety walkway fell apart and dropped me in a vat of cola. That actually wasn't too bad, as I did get a lifetime supply of my favorite beverages. I reminisce as my rant continues. Where was I? The cola factory, he responds with a chuckle. Oh yes, that brings us to my second year of secondary school. I believe I still had uninterrupted sessions with you until that time. We had a break of a few months during my final year of secondary school when I was kidnapped by that psychopath Logic. What was her deal again? The doctor decides to play along with my lapse in memory. She was another Class D, similar to the charlatan in that her wisdom stat was severely lacking, but instead of being a dazzler, she was a logic that became fixated on the notion that through a perfect understanding of an attributous body, she could unlock all attributes and essentially become immortal, if not a god, and was kidnapping and performing... you remember. He grimaces slightly as he sees my expression darken. Okay, I say as I recall that crazy lady. At least I was her last victim, as she was caught while buying certain banned chemicals from an undercover dazzler cop before she could start any of the real nasty experiments, and I was rescued soon after. But I still can't believe that cop arrested me and thought I was in cahoots with Dr. Frankenstein, just because I was the only victim found alive. That is why I don't trust mighties who are cops. They only think and act with their muscles, I think bitterly. He only got a slap on the wrist for the wrongful arrest charge and police brutality. I grumbled darkly, my eyebrows knit in disgust. Let's just say you have gone through some horrific things, Dr. Finkelstein interrupts, looking slightly uncomfortable with my rambling. The exact number is 33 court-mandated groups of sessions, each group with about 30 or so mandated sessions apiece, which is something considering you are only 29. The reason I say you are unlucky only from one point of view is that in each of these cases you could have and probably should have died. But not only have you survived each one, you survived with no lasting physical traumas, and have won enough money through some, frankly, non-ending court cases associated with these incidents to live comfortably. Do you even have to work a day in your life? He asks, again rhetorically. It is not about whether I have to work, I say quickly in exasperation. We have had this discussion before as well. I want to find fulfillment. I want my life to mean something. For all these stupid accidents to mean something. But instead, all I can do is lay awake in my large and empty apartment. Even with all my money, nobody wants to seriously date me, a useless. I know there is nothing about me to like except for my money. They don't see me for who I am, only in what I lack as a useless. I will never have kids or be a father. Nobody, not even myself, wants to risk having a useless as a child, nor can I adopt, as the laws don't allow a Class U citizen to do so. We may give children crazy ideas like kindness to all and equality. He stops me before I say anything too treasonous. There are many who would envy not having to work and being able to buy whatever they feel like. Do you even understand what the number one worry of most people is, attributed included? I pause at his question. I want to make a snippy comment about dazzlers and their hair or makeup, but I decide to bite my tongue and consider his question seriously. Death? I answer, as I have had my fair share of brushes with death. It is definitely my number one worry, especially when another accident happens. I have long come to terms with them being actual accidents and just my terrible luck, rather than the work of some powerful being with a warped sense of humor, as I often imagined in my youth after receiving my Class U license. While that is a common fear and is intrinsic to us mortal and imperfect beings, what most people worry about is money. How to get more of it, either for pure survival purposes or for more power and enjoyment, or, he chuckles, perceived enjoyment of life. It is actually rather rare for an individual to be worried about fulfillment, as that generally means they have the means to buy all necessities for life, and the wisdom to realize that money does not bring joy or true happiness. Those that obtain neither will live a life of want and greed for the material things in this life, and perceive feelings of power, and yes, tend to treat others with less than kindness. You, on the other hand, through your many trials have realized that you are powerless against what life may throw at you, and accept that powerlessness, and instead are searching for what truly matters, what you can control. And what is it that truly matters? I ask doubtfully. The betterment of the self and society. You are aware of how unlikely it is that you will ever be accepted by society, as yes, the world does not believe that you have anything to offer as an unattributed. Yet you keep trying. Instead of living a life of luxury and sloth, trying to drown out your feelings with useless material items or numbing the pain with drugs, you choose to learn new things and even find a way to give back to society through any job instead, as you realize that is what will bring the fulfillment you seek in life. So you see, I feel you may be one of the luckiest people alive. I may be an empath due to my wisdom, but I still have not reached the level where I seek fulfillment, as I still worry about making ends meet and continue to try and improve my lifestyle through my work. I truly envy you. I am a little taken aback at his words. I would never in a million years envy my life. I would not wish it on my... wait, maybe I would wish it on my worst enemy, but definitely not on anybody I just don't like, which is most people. I look at the clock, seeing our session is coming to an end. Well, do you envy me enough to sign this paper that means these sessions are over? For now, I hedge, knowing I will be back eventually. He chuckles at my joke, knowing the same. Sure, I do not want to have to continue these sessions longer than necessary. Pass me the form. I will get it filled, signed, and sent out tonight. Thank you, I exclaim as I hand him the form and rush out of his office before he can change his mind. Hopefully, I can last another year before I darken his office again. I wonder what I should try for this time. Maybe I should apply to another college and promise a large donation? They may let me in that way, but darn, I really can't stand those logics. Maybe I will learn to be a pastry chef. I will sleep on it. I tap the button on my recorder. Case notes, Agent Z, case number 7779. Subject Charles Tour, Interview number 1445 on the third day of the second month of the year 2024 of the post-measurement calendar. I take a brief pause to collect my thoughts before continuing my dissertation of my case notes to my handheld. Subject remains unaware of his monitored status. His therapy sessions continue to remain uneventful, and he clearly thinks of them as a punishment, which, in a way, they are. His status shall remain unchanged. Requested continued monitoring and media blackout regarding his involvement in the many accidents. Regarding the many accidents, they are likely to continue, though calling them accidents now seems incorrect. My only theory is that there exist attributes that we cannot measure, which goes against the very fabric of our society that we have built up over the last 2 millennia. There have always been theories surrounding the unattributed in certain circles, though no thorough research has ever been conducted or authorized. Though frowned upon, I can't help but think that this subject has awakened as a Class D in some heretical attribute. If I believed in luck, I would indeed say, as Dr. Finkelstein mentioned, that he is the luckiest man I have encountered. That he has survived to this day and thrived financially, despite being labeled as Class U, and the many, many events we have cataloged only supports my belief. Though I cannot share this belief with my fellow agents, I will be requesting at this time that we remain hands-off, as I doubt actual attempts on his life would work anyway. He seems destined to die, yet unable to, due to his insane luck. However, that doesn't remain true for those in his vicinity, as seen by the many bodies stacked up in the wake of his many incidents. Remember to submit this week's paperwork by the 5th day. Again, report no change to the current situation. No loyalty issues have been observed. Termination of any known rank Ds that approach the subject is recommended. Better surveillance might be required after this latest incident with Charlatan. If wind of the subject reaches the more powerful among them, I fear he may be used for some unsavory purpose. It is still uncertain whether Charlatan targeted him specifically. It is unfortunate that he committed suicide rather than being captured and risk interrogation by our agents. Cremate the body and continue with the story that he escaped. It is always useful to have a scapegoat to plaster on headlines when needed. As I finish my recording, I see the form left for Dr. Finkelstein in the subject's hasty exit and smile dryly. Just then, I feel my cell vibrating. I check the caller ID and see it's from a number I recognize easily, the hospital again. I can't help but roll my eyes and groan as I answer. I didn't expect anything so soon after the last incident. Hello? Hello? Is this Dr. Finkelstein? The nurse on the other side asks. Yes, this is Dr. Finkelstein, I reply, almost knowing what will come next. My name is Nurse Chandler. You are listed as the emergency contact for a Mr. Charles Turr. He has suffered an accident and is currently en route to Destin's Memorial Hospital. Oh dear, that is unfortunate. What happened? I ask, almost replying with a "this time." He is unconscious and currently in stable condition, but there is a high likelihood of permanent brain damage. From the police report received, it seems the piano fell on his head after a crane malfunction while they were attempting to move it onto the 4th story of a nearby building on a route from your office to his home. We will need to do further testing to determine the full extent of the damage. Oh, is that all? I reply in relief. I haven't lost my subject yet. Thank you for the information. Please inform me as soon as he wakes up, most likely later tonight. Oh, is he a Hardy? She asks in confusion. We must have the information wrong in our system. We have him down as a Class U. No confusion. I just happen to know his head is too hard to suffer any lasting damage from something as trivial as a piano. This is no time for levity, the nurse exclaims in disbelief. This is a serious matter. I am serious, I reply. He will wake up later tonight, and you will inform me when he does. In addition, you will be receiving certain paperwork in a moment from the Central Attribution Agency, including a gag order and various NDAs. You are to speak of this matter to only myself and the attending physician. Am I clear? I understand, answers the nurse, fear and disbelief clear in her tone. She obviously was not expecting an unaffiliated to be connected with the CAA. Oh well, if she causes any issues, she can easily disappear. Good, I respond. This is a very sensitive matter, and I highly recommend that you keep silent on this matter. No reporters are allowed in, and no record is to be made of Charles's stay. We will provide all the necessary paperwork for your systems. Do not forget to call me as soon as he regains consciousness. Goodbye. Soon I am dialing another number, one not saved on my phone. Hello, Carpets, Appliances, and Accessories? A front for the CAA. I respond. Jack and Sally went up the hill. After a brief pause and a slight click, I hear a response. Welcome, Agent Z. What do you require? They always are no-nonsense individuals working the switchboard. Must have awakened intelligence. I require gag orders and record cleanup for case file 7779. Current status, en route to Destin's Memorial Hospital. Possible media blackout needed. Just a moment, the nameless voice replies. Pulling up the case file now. Here it comes. They don't understand how powerful this boy is. I see the case file recommends capture and termination. I am not sure cleanup and media blackout will be needed. We can just have an accident happen at the hospital. Quick, easy, and cheap. As I have already recommended, I do not believe that will be necessary, nor possible given his circumstances. I know, they are just my own theories. But how many times does it take before his surviving near-death experiences ceases to be coincidence for you pencil pushers and starts being recognized as something real and tangible? I state with a beat of heat in my voice. Not that I care for the subject. No, I just understand him better than anybody else. He is dangerous, but at the same time, not currently a threat. That could change, though, if the agency decides to directly take action. I am certain he will survive, though not sure about those sent after him. All he is at the moment is expensive. Expensive to the bureaucrats who care about such things. Luckily, we do manage to recoup some of his costs through the charges of his lawyer, another plant from the CAA, on his case. Besides, it is not this agent's fault. Bureaucracy is what it is. The bureaucrat on the other end of the line seems to agree with my unspoken thoughts. Calm down, Agent Z. I am just doing my job. I will have to send your request to your supervisor for approval. I will expedite it as I understand it is time-sensitive with possible media involvement, but you must realize that this may be out of both of our hands. Thank you, I respond in relief. I know my supervisor, and he trusts my judgment. Be sure to charge a portion of the needed cost directly to the subject through the usual methods. Understood. I hear another click. Ugh, I need a drink, I think as I pack up to head home. As I am leaving, the thought hits me. I wonder what happened to the agent that was following Charles home. Oh well, not my problem, I conclude as I turn off the lights.